going to lie here. I took a liking to Arthur Smith really early in this season, and it was way before he was getting these kinds of results. But it's easy now, isn't it? Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. I hope you'll check those out as well. The Steelers will resume practicing today in advance of Cleveland week, and they'll do so fresh off a feel-good offensive output to the extreme, meaning not just the 37 points that the offense posted in the 44-38 victory over the Bengals, but also just having so many different things work and so many different players involved and so many individual bounce backs. And yeah, I know the Bengals are what the Bengals are defensively, but I'm going to share this with you too. The Bengals also are what they are offensively, and we all speak of the Bengals offense in glowing terms, and we should. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, that's the deadliest 1-2 punch in the NFL, with all due respect to a certain quarterback and a certain tight end in Kansas City. And the current numbers for the Steelers, not just in the past few games, not since Russell Wilson took over, the whole body of work. I mean, let's lay it all out there. The Steelers currently rank 10th in the National Football League with an average of 24.7 offensive points per game. That means you're not counting stuff like when Nick Herbig knocks the ball out and Peyton Wilson runs it home. This is just points that the offense puts up. The Steelers are 10th at 24.7 points per game. The Steelers rank 14th in total offense, meaning just how many yards they get. That's 344 per game. The Steelers are at 344 per game. You know what the Bengals are? They're at 356 per game. Just 12 more yards. You'd never have thought such a thing possible. Your wildest, most ridiculously optimistic outlook for this offense this season wouldn't have had the Steelers where they are. They're top 10 in scoring. And look, I mean, I can carve up as well as anybody all the different areas where the credit should go. But let's be really clear about where the blame would go if it weren't the case. It would start out on the quarterbacks. It would be, Justin Fields isn't the guy, get Russ in there, and then it's Russell Wilson's too old, and put Justin back in there. But ultimately, it would come around to the coordinator, this being Pittsburgh and all. Instead, what this guy's done is to come from a situation that had to have been humbling for him more than he lets on, meaning losing the head coaching job in Atlanta after 3 years there. He takes another job, doesn't even really need to. This is a guy whose family is independently really, really wealthy. Plus, he just made a nice chunk of change in running the Falcons. Could have taken a couple years off. He could have just gone for a global cruise. Put his feet up, sipped on banana daiquiris for months on end. And instead, he came here. He came to Pittsburgh to coach under Mike Tomlin, to accept a position that's been a pressure cooker for quite some time now for any number of people, and to try to make this offense happen with more new pieces than he could have conceivably counted even before he got here. Not least of which was, again, at quarterback. And all he's done is succeed, but also within what the Steelers do, within their vibe. This was Tomlin on the subject of Smith yesterday at his press conference on the South Side.
Man, having a lot of fun with Arthur. He's wired like I'm wired. He is a big-time competitor. He's excited about the next challenge. He cares less about what's in our rear view, only in terms of how it helps us get better. He's loving being a component of this AFC North football, and so I'm excited about continuing to go with him and what waits on us this week.
Yeah, that's who Smith is. That's who the players talk about in that same way. That's who you'll hear me talk about in that same way. I can tell you, just from my own unimportant perspective, that I've had more of a chance to talk to this coordinator, just talk to him, just like a human being, than I have every coordinator I've covered before him combined. Why? Because he's very Pittsburgh-y for a guy who's not from here. He's always wanting to chat. He's telling it like it is. He wants you to tell it like it is. He wants to know what you saw. Always chatting it up with his players. More of a physical presence in the locker room than I can recall from any coordinator, offensive or defensive, in the time that I've covered the Steelers. And again, and unapologetically so. He's not trying to, tread on somebody else's ground or whatever. He just wants to find where his players are so he can talk to them one-on-one. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you got. Tell me what you saw. And look, I'm not burying the negative stuff, because you've also heard me on this program criticize him, particularly after the game in Cleveland. I didn't like his game plan. I didn't like his lack of adjustments. And I really, really didn't like his fourth quarter. Okay, great. So what's he do for a follow-up? He goes into Cincinnati and puts 520 yards on the Bengals. And here again, I'm going to say this once more. We can all rip on the Bengals into eternity and we'll be right. That defense is horrific. However, that was also the most points and the most yards anybody put up on that same defense. Credit where due. Credit where due. You got yourself a good one, Pittsburgh. And you got yourself somebody who wants to be here and who just feels like he's always been here. When we come back, J1Q.
This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Today's J1Q comes from John, who says, DK, this defense depends on strip sacks and lucky breaks to save their butts on the regular. This defensive game plan isn't cutting it, as they're getting gashed on both the run and the pass. Joe Flacco's 100 years old, and he diced them up. So let's make believe this defense is great or fine and continue to rely on strip sacks as if those are a drawn-up play. Can we at least be very concerned about this defense? John, you go right ahead and be concerned. You go ahead and do that. In fact, spend your whole week being concerned. I'm never going to advise anybody in one direction or the other how to feel. I just don't believe in it. However, I am comfortable answering for myself, and since you asked me, here's what I've got. The defense currently ranks 6th in the NFL in total defense, meaning, again, yards allowed, and 7th in the NFL in points allowed. Now, the defense, of course, has also generated a ton of takeaways. Now, I can't be certain what your thinking is as it relates to how these things are luck. Maybe they feel fluky in watching them, and maybe a game like the one in Cincinnati had you unsettled because the Bengals were getting their yards because they're actually really good at that sort of thing. And then there were a couple of key moments when TJ Watt knocked the ball out of Joe Burrow's hand, and then another when Nick Herbig knocked the ball out of Burrow's hand, the latter resulting in Peyton Wilson's scoop and score. If you think that's just, happenstance, again, you're entitled to that view. my view of practices and of training camp and of everything that these guys actually try to do and work on relentlessly and study on film how best to execute it and then go out there and actually execute it is that this is, how did Alex Highsmith put it the one time? He said, it's not a lightning strike when we do this. That's Highsmith's line. It's great, right? Because this is what we're aiming for. This is what we're attempting to achieve. If we have a choice between a tackle or knocking the ball out of somebody's hand, we're going to knock the ball out or try to knock it out 100 times out of 100, regardless of down and distance, score, situation, time on the clock, anything. We want the football. This, what the Steelers do defensively, it's deliberate. It's the literal objective of what they're doing out there. And believe it or not, even the scoop and score is part of that. There are drills done regularly in practice where the ball is just sent a certain way in front of a defender, bouncing off the ground. And, the ball being an oblong spheroid and all that, the bounce is unpredictable. But the more often you do it, just like anything else, you start feeling more comfortable about it. You start feeling more sure of your ability to take that ball and run with it as opposed to just, oh no, I got to fall on it. Peyton Wilson looked to me with how cool he was in taking that ball into the end zone as if he had done that a million times. And of course, he was a star player in college. So he's got, not just the confidence, but he's got the experience to bolster that confidence. But none of that's an accident. None of that's fluky. What else looked weird to you or whatever? How about the Dante Jackson's interception? How about that one? That was Cam Hayward dominating at the line of scrimmage, getting his hand up to tip that ball. And it was Jackson coming down with his 4th pick for this season. Which end of that seemed lucky? No, is my answer to you. No, I am not concerned. Do you want the defense to be, perfect or whatever? Do you want them to never make you squirm while watching a 3-hour football game? Oh, sure. That's not the real world. I'm not picking on you, my man, but you're not the only one to ever bring this up. And it's just like, it drives me a little bit crazy because this is not new. This isn't something that came in as a point of emphasis on the Steelers defense in 2024. This has been around for a while. They've been a takeaway leader in the NFL for half a decade now. Specifically, just TJ alone has been a takeaway leader. And it's not because, TJ's rubbing his lucky rabbit's foot before the game or something. I appreciate the question. I appreciate having you here. I appreciate everyone who listens to Daily Shot of Steelers. Don't forget we have the Double Shot show coming your way this afternoon, a 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time premiere on that.